Having a quorum, I'd like to open the Architectural Board of Review for today, November 29th, 2010, and start with general business, public comment. Any member of the public would like to address the board on an item not on the agenda? Please step forward.
It's not really on the agenda. I just have a request.
Okay, could you?
I'm Wanda Livernoy. Is that turned on? No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm Wanda Livernoy, 533 Brinkerhoff. Bradbury is number 5, and
Yes.
My request is that I believe during the May 25th meeting there was a photo that appeared of what the property looked like before close of escrow or shortly thereof, kind of medium dreadful. And I would like to get a copy of that if I could.
Okay, can I have
Since it's public record. And I asked Suzanne, and I don't know, between Plan Santa Barbara and a variety of things, it just never happened. And so someone said, well, you should be able to get a copy of it. So I thought, well, here I am.
Okay.
Okay.
Wanda, let's see if staff can help you out there.
Good, thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, also just to FYI, the item was requested to be moved by staff today.
So you don't have any of that?
No, I'm saying this, the item that you're asking about has been moved up in today's agenda, I believe.
So the earlier on in the agenda.
Yeah. We've moved it from item 5 to item 2 today. So if you're here to comment on that project today,
Well, that's the only comment. I mean, I
Okay.
just would like a copy of that.
I just wanted to let you know that if you were intending to not to have to come back.
I have an appointment, and it's just tight today, so I might on the way back.
Here are the photographs that are on file. You can take a look at them and see if it's one of the photographs is in question.
People notice these things. Okay, I'd like to close that portion and bring it to approval of the minutes of the Architectural Board of Review for November 15, 2010. Can I have a motion to open those minutes, please? First by
So moved.
Keith, second by Dawn. Thank you. Going through the items here, anything before item 1? Okay, item 1.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Keith.
item 1, let's see, item number 3, rather, I believe should be Milgard vinyl in reference to the windows.
As opposed to the aluminum.
Correct.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, on that same
Yes,
item,
Dawn?
it may not be the case, but I thought that the motion was that the wood-clad windows be a part of the approval instead of just preferred. But if that's the way it was stated, it was Clay that made these out here. But that makes it sound like the applicant can make a choice. So wanted to get a clarification on that.
Who else was in the...
Mr. Chair, I
Okay,
agree
please.
with Don's interpretation of that. That was, the direction was to use a wood-clad window system.
Okay, so our wood. So we should state a wood-clad window system shall be detailed on the plans rather than the Milgard vinyl.
Yes.
Okay. So item 2.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Keith.
Item 2, motion comment number 4. I think it should say to minimize jogs in the arrays rather than eliminate.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Item 3.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dawn.
I don't remember the motion. Maybe somebody can. Well, neither of them are here. I don't remember what motion number 2 referred to. Consider changing the material of the wall to match the north building. Does anybody remember what that refers to? Changing the
believe that-
material of the wall.
Mr. Chair, I believe that was in reference to a site wall in the parking area.
To the Allen block wall.
Right.
So is it changing it, or is it covering it? Isn't it an existing wall? Isn't it an
It is an
existing wall?
existing wall.
So it wouldn't be changing. So it would be consider
Matching the material.
matching the material, matching the north building with the material. I don't know.
So is it considered changing the material of the site wall to match
Correct.
that adjacent on the building?
Or maybe it should be consider.
Site wall.
Would that be all side walls or just the wing wall?
I don't
I don't recall
remember.
any other site walls, but I think they,
It's the same side wall that perimeters after parking lot.
Okay. So should it read, consider changing the material of the site wall to match the north building adjacent, or the adjacent north building?
yes.
It's a little better. Just was confusing to me.
The adjacent north building, right? Okay. Item 4.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Keith.
on comment number 4 for that item, I believe it should say study a more defined pedestrian entry.
Okay, that sounds good. Defined pedestrian entry. Okay, and that's it. So all those in favor of the minutes as reviewed, say aye. Aye. I mean, I would abstain. I was not here. Sorry. So motion passed. So we'll go on to consent calendar for November 22nd. For motion to open those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
First by
Second.
Paul, second by Dawn.
Me.
Dawn.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The meeting on November 22nd was the following items. Item A, 822 East Yananali Street, final approval as submitted. Item B, 1623 Chino Street, final approval with conditions. Item C, 3825 State Street, final approval with conditions. Item D, 936 San Pasquale, that was continued and referred again to consent.
Okay.
And all the items were reviewed by Gary Moselle and Chris Gillian.
Thanks. So all those agreeing with the minutes as reviewed, say aye. Aye. Against. Motion carries. Consent calendar for November 29th, 2010. Motion to open.
So moved, Mr.
First by Keith, second by Gary.
Mr. Chair, those items were item A, 936 San Pasquale Street, again, continued 1 week with additional comments to the applicant, back to return to consent. Item B, 608 Anacapa Street, continued 1 week to consent with comments. Item C, 333 Consuelo Drive, that was final approval with comments. And item D, 1015 San Andreas Street, was continued 1 week with comments, back to consent. And was it Gary? Moselle was the reviewer of all items,
Okay.
right?
Thanks.
Okay.
All those in favor of the minutes are reviewed, say aye. Aye. Against. Motion carries. Thank you. So on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals.
Mr. Chair, I do have some announcements. First of all, Chris Gillian has called in sick today, so he won't be in attendance today. Item 2, 535 East Montecito Street, there was a request for postponement for 2 weeks. So what we've done is moved item 6 up into that, item 5, 617 Bradbury has been moved up to that second slot.
Okay.
And we've now moved item 6 to the old item 5 slot. Hopefully we can end earlier as a result.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, one last announcement. City Council did, in fact, adopt the ordinance amendments last week, so they are going to be in effect pretty much when we get back in the first of the year.
Sign committee.
Right,
Sign.
and the sign committee, so officially, our projects would be referred if they're complex or get referred by the regular sign committee consent reviews up to the full board. You'll be seeing some over time on your regular agendas.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Amy. Yes, Gary?
Yes, I'll be stepping down from old item 5, new item 2, Bradbury project.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I was reminded there was an appeal filed at 401 Old Coast Highway. There is some discussion regarding whether we can resolve the appeal with both parties since it's dealing with the parking issue. As you know, on that project, there was still a conflict between two projects. That item has not been scheduled yet.
Okay. All right. Subcommittee reports. I just have one on the subcommittee on the 101 highway. There was a site meeting for the subcommittee members, of which I was not able to attend. And I think that they're having another one again before the end of December. I don't think that there are any particular issues, but there is I think there's a slight rerouting of one of the ramps that they're talking about. That's why they needed to have a subcommittee meeting. But I'll look into it some more and find out what it's all about.
Mr. Chair, I am aware of a couple of issues that necessitate these ongoing discussions. Caltrans is having a difficult time getting Southern California or Southern Pacific Railroad to agree on going under their railroad while they temporarily shore it. It's because I guess that part of the plan was to get the bikes to get pass
underneath.
right underneath there to connect to East Cabrillo Boulevard.
Yes.
So they're running into some situation about they want him to rebuild it entirely, not to just shore it up. And
I see.
so that's part of the discussion. What do we do in the meantime? Do we just terminate the bike right there and not build this tunnel? And so you'll be getting into that design issue.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. That's actually a pretty important one. Okay. So that's the end of general business. And we bring it back to the board now for the first item of the evening, 216 Natoma Avenue. Thanks. Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
It's like I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, we've been hiding. Not on purpose. No landscape architect?
He's
I've
sick.
got the same thing.
Chris Gilly.
If you want, I'll use that though. The only thing I have is a color.
Oh, you can use the color.
Yeah, I'll use a color version.
Okay, while you guys set up, I'm just going to read, let's see, our minutes from the last meeting. So our last meeting here was June 28th of last year, of this year? This year.
Yeah, this year.
Following public comment.
Modification and
Oh, a lot of motions here, okay.
archaeology review.
Okay, so I'll just go off here. The compatibility analysis is as follows. Proposed project complies with the design guidelines and is consistent with city charter and municipal code. The design is compatible with the city and architectural character of the neighborhood. Project's mass, bulk, and scale are in compliance with additional comments provided below. There are no impacts to adjacent city landmarks, adjacent historic resources, or established public views of mountains or ocean. The project's design does not block established public views of mountains or ocean. Project's design provides an acceptable, appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. The architecture is ready for preliminary approval. Return with a solution for landscaping replacement regarding removal of the 2 existing trees. It is suggested by the board that the applicant work with the neighborhood parcel property owner to the west for an appropriate solution to maintain privacy between the 2 structures. Okay, well, very small list of requirements here. So maybe we should start with the last one first, with the privacy issue.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Bill Wolf with Pacific Architects.
I'm Rob Fowler, landscape architect.
So the privacy issue, I talked to the owner. Actually, I met with him after the meeting. And as you can remember back in our meeting, our discussion, we have a very narrow existing driveway that runs up the side of the property. Currently, there's no fence or anything along this property edge. And then he, the neighbor, has a paved sidewalk that then butts up to his building. And the proposal, concern that he had was that the people that had been renting here before would park their cars here and start up in the morning, and the exhaust and the noise would bother these folks here. Well, not supposed to be parking there, first of all. New owners to the property, so they'll be parking in the garage, which we're part of our biggest part of the project is to actually make a garage that fits 2 cars. So we won't be addressing that or having that issue. Also, in the discussion, we discovered really because of the width that we have there, the existing structure is here. We've got a landscape buffer, our paving, which we've now gone to a permeable paver, and a mixture of turf block and flagstones and a nice Mega Bergerac paver. That really the solution would have been to put some planting on his side. He did not want to do that. So what we decided to do was, and I'll have Rob explain it, but landscape, which is actually nicely landscaped now, but even further landscape that area there so that now we have kind of a visual width driveway and buffer between the houses, the structures, and that this is just a passage, not a parking area. So that was the best solution we could come up with. We thought if we put a fence there also that it would actually diminish the feeling from these units looking across. They'd have a much foreshortened view and just kind of not a very good
I think we thought too that the landscaping, what's there now and how I plan to enhance it, is actually nice enough that to put a fence there would make them feel hemmed in and kind of lose that charm that's kind of exists by looking at that side of the elevation there.
Yeah, at least you get to look into some green. Did you?
Do you want to look at that landscape plan too? I can jump to that, or I can go back to the buildings if you'd like. And I think
let's.
I think you seem to be happy in generally in speaking with what we were doing on the building, but I can go through that again if you'd like to see it. Refresh your memory.
I think it would be good to just. Huh?
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Is he okay? Well, who hasn't seen the project? Everyone here is familiar with it? Okay, I think if we all then, we're pretty comfortable with the buildings.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think let's just attack these 2 items and just go with that.
Yeah, and the things that we did, just to refresh your memory, is site wall. Paul, you'd asked us to keep that 30 inches high. We did. We are. We haven't changed the plan at all. We went through our archaeology report. We're good. Got our structure. Everything's good. I've had Rob come through and now give us some landscaping for all of the backyard and the front yard. So with that being said, I'll let him kind of take it over from here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think there's some big picture. I guess there was some notion that there was some a bunch of trees were being taken out, and there's actually
2 existing.
There's a huge jacaranda on the neighbors that has a really nice skyline effect, and there was a tree that was removed kind of in there somewhere, but I think there was the original notion that there was a sapote tree that's kind of unique that's in the back was going to be back here was going to be taken out, and we're leaving that, and then enhancing vegetation from there. I just kind of came in and worked with Bill and kind of enhanced the hardscape and dealt with some of the function in the back, and I mean Bill had done a pretty good job of that, and I just did the landscape architectural twist to it, and in the back with, outdoor kind of barbecue, and there's the outdoor fireplace, and just kind of making those nice spaces. And then in the front, I mean, all I really did was, you folks wanted to keep the turfcrete, and I just had suggested it was really hard to find the front door, so the flagstone paving was just a real subtle nod to kind of give you some sense of getting to the front door. So other than that, the rest is more detailed planting design and irrigation design, which I guess I would just hope to bring back to consent agenda and let Chris Gilliland take a look at it.
I also have colors, if you want to take a look at that. I have details. I don't even know if we saw that. I had them ready last time, too. But
Well, let's do this. I think the landscape for us is probably going to come back on consent for approval.
is it, before you go any further, Chris, is it required to have irrigation then? Will you need a full
To get
irrigation
final, I
set?
think, yeah. We
You
need
do.
to have irrigation.
Okay, all right. I wanted to try and get as far as I can. I'm trying to rush it through as quick as I can before first of the year so we don't get caught.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to
Okay.
catch Chris because he's every week they have consent
Oh,
agenda.
okay. Oh,
so,
fantastic.
So that really helps with their agenda
Okay,
being every week.
fantastic.
You don't have to wait every 2 weeks.
Okay. Trying to rush it along.
What I'd like to do is just turn the pages and go through, because we're looking at, we just want to get a brush that the documents themselves
Sure.
contain all the information that we want. So if
This-
you could pass through, we
Yeah.
can have a general quick
do
look,
that, yeah.
and you could point to some of your key details, that kind
Sure.
of thing.
Sure, this is the only sheet I've added, and it's because I now have colors, so
Right.
I have that.
And
I
these
have
are
a color
represented
board.
here
That's a
on the color board.
representation there, and on the back has got the same chart.
Yeah. And Keith, you've seen this? I'll pass it down. Dawn, you've seen this? Pass
And
it
I
down.
brought photos of the house next door. We're intentionally, going to try and match. This is our spot. This is the one next door. Very much a typical Spanish of that period. White, sort of Santa Barbara blue trim, terracotta roof.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not a lot to stretch
Yeah.
there.
So this was a revamp of your elevations with your detailed bubbles and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which a lot we had already. But
Okay.
anyway, and then I'll show you the key details. So that you know what's going on there. Site plan.
And I saw one of those drawings, you had this little red, are you doing brick on the
No, what we're
perimeter?
going to do is a concrete border there with a field of
Okay.
a paver over sand. We want to try and get as permeable surface as possible.
Actually, the paver will be set in concrete. It will be used as a soldier course on the edge.
Oh, okay.
So.
Good.
Oh, okay, that's what you were talking about. Demolition plan, you can see parts are removed. Lower floor, again, the addition here. Remodel, and the garage is new. Side walls, side wall. Upper floor, door and window schedules, again, try and match existing style. Actually, the existing windows were not really typical of that period. But plan. Existing elevations. Magical there.
Yeah, that's the sheet that you
Yeah, this is the
supplied.
sheet I substituted in and I added the color.
Okay.
Everything else is the same as what you have except for the colors.
Right. That was the existing building before, is that what?
That was the existing
Okay, right. All right, go ahead.
building sections. This is the garage structure. Interior elevations.
Yep.
Electrical plan. There's power. I do have a lighting plan. I have fixtures selected also.
Okay.
Upper floor lighting, or electrical, sorry.
Okay.
Here's our lighting plan. Here's the lighting fixtures, Hanneman, we've selected 3 fixtures.
Exterior fixtures.
Exterior, yep. This
You guys
is
seen
one.
those? Exterior fixtures.
RCP1, you can see the,
RCP1. Look fine.
anyway, it's a pendant mount that'll hang in the hall, in the outdoor
Okay.
walkways, and these are the wall-mounted fixtures,
Okay.
and that's a pendant mount or a wall-mounted fixture that mounts there. So it's one of those, and several of these, and two of those.
Okay.
Details, typical
Okay.
plaster reveal, pushing it in, trying to get as much shadow line there on the doors and windows as we can, connection to decks and outdoor surfaces. The windows and doors are going to be a clad product, wood frame interior. It'll be the factory finish by Colby. Two-piece mission tile, pagan vents, deck railing, upper floor deck is going to have a wood post.
Okay.
That'll be a stain. We'll do a stain that'll match the garage door.
Okay.
And then we have iron railings also. This chimney cap, actually I've circled it. It matches the house, which shows on the elevation, so that'll be corrected detail. It refers to it here, but it doesn't show it right.
What does the one on the house look like?
It's a metal shroud, conical shape. Actually, I have the detail right here on B1. I can show you. It's going to match that. The same.
Oh, it
cap.
has a
Some
cap
metal
on the outside.
Yeah, copper conical shroud
Okay.
because it's a zero clearance fire.
Okay. So what we're seeing on that drawing is really just the
That's
required
just the
spark
arrestor.
arrestor.
Yes, I actually
Okay.
have corrected it already, but didn't print it.
Okay.
So next set will have that.
All right.
If you want to add that as a note, I'd be happy. And the outdoor railings here off the balcony in the front, iron solid, with some twists and some details.
Okay.
Barbecue in the back.
Yeah.
Fixtures.
But Dave, you're in here for preliminary or final?
Well, I want to get whatever I'll take.
Because
Whatever you give me.
I mean, the drawings are almost. I mean, they're final.
Yeah, I've
really.
got
So I just
structural
want.
drawings. I've got the only thing I don't have all of is landscape irrigation. So we've got all the structural drawings ready to go.
Okay. Because what we can
I
do
do,
is
yeah.
on this one, if we were to just write and refer to the shroud that's
could
on
do
the
that.
other page,
Sure.
then these drawings would be complete, and then we wouldn't have to ask for another drawing. You know?
Yeah.
So if you, at least for architectural, we could just say that.
I can
Please
refer to
see
that detail.
sheet so and so
D1 sheet.
Yeah.
D1 detail.
for
13.
architectural shroud.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Let's see. Can I have it? Should I have it in red?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion for final approval as submitted.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm just gonna
we
write.
didn't do public
Yeah.
comment.
Just gonna write this in here.
Thank you.
See. Detail 13.
13 sheet D1.
D1. Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay, so with that, we just do a public comment. So I'd like to open it up for public comment. Anyone in the audience? Seeing no one in the audience, I'd bring it to the board for any questions from the board or comments. And I'll start with Keith. No questions going. Don. Paul. No comments. Gary. Okay, Keith. You.
I already made a motion that-
Okay, let's have the motion.
for final approval as submitted
So this is
with landscaping to return on consent for final.
okay, and this would be not as submitted, but as noted, because we put a note on one of the drawings.
For final.
With notes on the drawings. Okay.
Chair, that's for architecture and landscape?
No, the landscape to return on consent for final, but the architecture is given final. So, second by Keith. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries.
Great.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Rob,
Yeah.
thanks a lot.
Do you want me to slip this sheet in? It's got the colors.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
That would be good.
I'll do that.
And
And you want to keep the color version? whoever that
Yeah, whatever you present would be really what
Why
we,
don't we give them that one? This one, probably.
Yeah.
This one's already on the side.
yeah.
We're going to keep that one, Bill.
Oh, we'll take that one.
And we put that down there.
Give them that one. Here, we'll just move it.
Okay, and so we jump to the old number 5, which is a new number 2, 617 Bradbury Avenue.
Mr. Chair, that's been moved, right? We're announcing, can you announce that it's been moved up?
Yeah, so the, I just like to say that the item number 2 has been postponed, and that's a request of the applicant. And we are now taking item number 5, which is brought forward to take that number 2 position, 617 Bradbury Avenue.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Suzanne
Hey, how are you doing,
Riegel,
Suzanne?
case planner for the project. This project went to council on May 25th of this year. It was a continuation of the December 8th, 2009 appeal hearing, at which time, in May, they decided that, or they determined that all the criteria that they had outlined for the applicant in December of 2009 had been met, and the project was approved. The appeal was upheld and the project approved. So they are here today just to receive preliminary approval. I did hear under public comment that Ms. Livernoy had requested a photo that was shown in the applicant's presentation at City Council. I have emailed Clay Arell, the architect of record, for that photo. So hopefully he'll get that to me in the next week or two, and I can forward it on to Ms. Livernoy.
Great. Thanks, Suzanne. So I'll just go ahead and read the minutes then. Back to full board. The board appreciates the continued progress of the applicant team. Finds the proposal successfully addressed the criteria City Council meeting September 25th. Motion for has successfully addressed the criteria of the meeting of City Council September 25th, 2009, which was a motion for reduction in the mass bulk and scale, successfully incorporating the Victorian elements of the neighborhood and retaining an appropriate amount of open space on front setback. The board finds that the proposed design is successful for this transition residential commercial neighborhood and looks forward to the applicant returning with final details. Proposed project complies with the design guidelines and is consistent with the city charter and municipal code requirements. Project design is compatible with the city and successfully incorporates the architectural elements appropriate for the character of the neighborhood. Project's mass bulk and scale are appropriate for its site and neighborhood. The proposed project is sensitive to adjacent city landmarks, adjacent historic resources, or established public views of mountains or ocean. The project's design does not block established public views of mountains or ocean. Design provides an appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. Well, that leaves us with not much to do.
Yeah.
That's how we like it.
Sometimes it can be short and sweet. Okay, well,
Okay.
you want me to go ahead?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Josh Bloomer, AB Design Studio. I'm here with the owner, Faye Perry, and Jack Kissel, Kiesel, sorry, our landscape architect. So, as discussed, last time this was before you, is late March. City Council granted our appeal in late May. So what we're bringing back to you is essentially very similar to what you saw the last time you looked at it. We've added some notes to the plans regarding finishes. We updated our landscaping drawings to coordinate with what you saw last time, and we've added some notations, the elevations to indicate finishes. I brought some samples along today that the owners provided for us. Let's see. We've also addressed the post sizes, which was something ABR member Zink brought up in one of the meetings, just around the detailing, which will As we thumb through the drawings, I guess if you have any questions, I'll hold off presenting any more than that until you have questions. And I encourage you to. Did you want to present anything in particular?
I need to. The landscaping pretty much remains the same as last time.
Okay.
So I guess if you guys have any specific questions.
I mean, granted that given the comments and the only responses to the comments is point of thank you, and so we'll answer any questions you have.
Right.
Because they're all pretty positive at this point, I think. Obviously, what we're trying to do here is get some kind of an approval for the project and then move it forward to consent or come back with details in some fashion.
Okay. Any, first we have public comment. Anyone in public would like to address the board on this matter? No? Close that portion. Bring it back to the board for questions. Keith?
No questions.
Dawn?
Nope.
No, Paul? Gary? Back to the board for comments. Keith?
I think the project's ready for preliminary approval, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Dawn?
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to recall where we were last time with this, and it's been back and forth so many times. And I was here. It looks like I was here. No, I was absent. That's why I don't know what's going on.
So I guess at the last meeting, what we have is that
The board found it
The board
ready
found
for
it,
preliminary,
yeah.
pretty much. But you had to go back to council for
That's right.
for an appeal.
Remember, if you recall, the council, we had a city council meeting for the appeal, and then they postponed it. They postponed their decision. We came back to you guys, reworked the project, brought it back
That's
to them,
right.
and then satisfied what they wanted to see. They didn't really have any
So you went
comments.
back for a determination after you came back to us.
Right.
That's right. I remember now.
And they were pretty satisfied with it. Didn't have anything negative to say. Didn't send it back with anything for you guys to work on. So that's why we're kind of at the position right now. We're kind of resetting from our March visit with you guys.
okay. Could you just go over the colors quickly?
Sure.
Yes.
The final colors will probably come in on consent for those, I think. But the basic scheme is a darker gray with a bit of a bluish tint to it, but against a white, or not a white, an off-white kind of a light gray. So you get those two different colors happening on the project. Obviously, we're setting back. We're using the darker colors. Some of the more elongated elements are using the dark colors.
That matches the neighbor on the one side.
We're also using the darker color out at the street front for the commercial unit. Using the system we're building with is, I won't get into it too much, but it's a steel-built system with an insulated panel, and then it has a capability of letting us add a siding material, which we're going to use cement board siding and be painted. There's a lighting package here, kind of it's not a full package, but client's chosen some lighting for it. I've got some information on the siding, and then this is the kind of a typical plaster finish that we're planning to go with.
That's where this white is here.
Yeah, so
And so this would be siding like that,
siding,
and that would be
right.
siding like
Correct.
that. And you just come back with the colors.
I mean, other than that, the rest of the finishing will be in the wood details on the cornice and the different guardrails, handrails, window details and such, columns. That's where that,
Oh, my.
those will be painted wood finishes.
Okay.
And I'm assuming at this point we'll do like a metal clad double hung window setup.
Okay. You don't have color swatches for these, by the way. The both way blue.
We've got different color swatches here that,
So, and this is the white. This is what you're looking at, or is this
This
just
is more
a
for a
texture?
finish. Yeah, that's a texture. This would get painted over. Mr. Chair, so are we? You're saying you want to present that color?
that's kind of dark.
Yeah, I think it's too dark. I think we're going to have to
We're
come
going
back
with
with
a-
like a custom color.
Okay.
Are we still in questions? Or were
Yeah,
we-
we
or
finished
in
questions
comments?
already, and we're in comments.
Okay.
And so, since you guys didn't have any, I was asking some
I do have
some
one
comment. And
I think one of the things is the rendition of this is a bit dark. I think it needs to pull back a bit, like a more
Yeah.
muted color.
I would like to.
Probably just because of the way this is printing.
I would like to look at the color palette after you have decided really what the colors that you want. And I feel that the project is particularly enough sensitivity with the project that I think that the full board should look at the colors. So I don't want the colors to go back just to consent.
That's fine
So
with us. I don't
we're
think
fine
we
with
have a
the
problem.
preliminary, but
Yeah.
just that the colors come back
That's
to full
fine.
board.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
Mr. Chairman,
wise.
I have a comment because I wasn't here last, and it was about this material you said was a wood painted, and then this is plaster. So you've got wood painted parapet detail, and then you have the plaster. Is that correct?
This right here.
Yeah, this is the plaster, right?
Yeah.
That's this, and then you've got a painted wood detail. Because I wasn't here, is that what everybody was okay with? Is everybody-
I don't really know how else would want to do that. I don't think we're going to do like a built-up plaster detail here. I think we're going to try and, get these two details to kind of relate to one another dimensionally and with the materials.
I guess maybe I just haven't seen that, where you do a wood, it's a fairly simple
Head.
cap detail that we see done in plaster a lot with plaster buildings. So I'm just wondering if everybody else is okay with that and understands that it's a painted wood.
It's like a fascia board.
Yeah.
I mean, for lack of a better term, it's more of an added.
I'm struggling with combining the painted wood with the plaster. It just,
I could possibly see it working, but I think the answer will be in the detailing, in looking at that
I think
detail
too,
across there.
this may end up being a bit, less stark. Like, right now it's showing white, and I think that's probably a little bit intense. And I don't think it'll weather well. I think it needs to be more of a light grayish color, and then this may end up being a little bit lighter.
Okay.
But there might be a kind of I think, in my mind, like a more of a difference in the materiality of those two elements.
Okay.
And this will be very smooth in the trowel, so.
I think what we're finding here is that the comfort level here is fine for preliminary. We will like to see what that detailing is and what your final color palette is.
Yeah, maybe
before the
we
front
can
board.
study that and maybe provide some other examples of
Sure.
what we're looking at, so you can visualize how it's been done
and
elsewhere.
the only
And you
reason
could even come in progress if you wanted to, so it's up to you.
There's a building across the street from this that we looked at quite a bit that has some of this detailing, and I can go
Maybe you
pull
could
those
bring
images
some
up.
photos in, and the only reason I'm bringing that up, Josh, is because this
You might actually
the
have one.
style of this building and the compatibility with the neighborhood was such an issue.
I
Has been
agree.
such an issue. So
Yeah.
the details we've always said are going to be really important, and
Yeah.
and what this style is stylistically, kind of what is this building? How is it defined? And I was trying to picture how that worked together, and I just can't quite picture it yet. But I think if you brought in some examples of what that's going to be, then I'd feel more comfortable with it.
Okay. Clear.
Okay. Paul? Comment?
My only comment is I look forward to seeing the details when we're going back to full board in progress. It's a great project.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think really it's the detailing with and the colors is what we'd just kind of like to see as you head towards final.
Sure.
But I think we're fine with preliminary. So when we make the motion, if we could just mention those two items then. So I'm open for a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Keith.
Take a stab at it. So this would be for preliminary approval with the following comments. Applicants to return with a final color palette of colors and materials. Upon return, provide details of the building cornices and examples of similar detailing or examples.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dawn. Under discussion?
We wanted to say something that this is preliminary for architecture and that the landscaping will be reviewed at the next meeting. I'm sorry, it looks fine, but we're not knowledgeable enough to.
We don't have our landscape
to say.
I saw that.
Yeah. Okay.
She was here on the last landscape review. Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is here.
But
I'm
he's-
confident to say it's going to be fine, but we as the board should maybe, we all okay with giving it complete preliminary, or does it matter?
I think I would prefer to leave that with Chris here, at least.
Wasn't
But
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of similar to the architecture at this point? I mean, can you frame it in the same context you're doing the architecture in terms of the detailing on the landscape? I mean, we've got the right elements in the right places, I would assume. We've got our outdoor living spaces and
Chris did actually
The
see
way
it
it's
the last
working.
time when we got unanimous approval from the ABR.
All they did was add 6 inches on either side and one little planter. So it's essentially the same landscape.
Right.
Except just.
I mean, certainly I think we'd be.
Chris was absent at the last meeting, and so was I. We were both absent. That's why I didn't know what was going on. And so was Chris.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
As the maker of the motion, I clarify, why don't we give preliminary approval for architecture and landscape to come back on consent for preliminary.
Yeah. I don't think you'll have a problem, to tell you the truth, but you can actually just meet with Chris at any time if you wanted to, on one of his consent meetings, if you wanted to come in before you're ready.
Yeah, just to tune it up.
Just asking.
Issues.
Any
Okay.
issues?
That sounds
No
great.
issues, just keep on going until final, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
So it would be preliminary landscape on consent, but the project comes back to full board for final.
Correct.
Which is kind of unusual, but that's the way, because Chris isn't here, it just makes sense to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so
And
Dawn?
if he's here at the full board and we can do it at that point, can we do that? Is that possible?
But you need to get preliminary from him first, so I would suggest
okay.
making arrangements to do that on
Yeah,
consent.
okay, I see.
we
So
can-
we'll hit
we
that
can
before we
catch
come
up.
back on
Yeah,
full.
and he's every week on
Sure.
consent.
Yeah,
so-
now I understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries.
We can do that, right, Jaime?
You'll actually probably wouldn't even waste any time, because if you meet with him next week.
So that's a continued definitely on the landscape plan. You just get back on the agenda.
Okay.
It's not on next week, so you need to tell us when you get back on.
Oh, when I want to get back on?
Yes.
Yeah.
When the first available.
Yeah, when it's first available.
Well, that would be next week. So
Okay,
it's
let's
1
do
week
that.
continuance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Jay. So we're on to the third item of the evening, 120 South Hope Avenue. 120 South Hope. 120 South Hope Avenue, F20. Benson and Bowles.
That's me.
That's you. I just have to repeat that as my
So
mic
is
was
that a
on.
different plan you want to present, or is it the same?
It's the same thing.
Okay. We will now be reviewing item number 3, 120 South Hope Avenue, F-20. This is for concept review. 6. And you're coming back later this evening for another item?
No.
Number 6?
No, I'm not here for that item.
Oh. So it's someone else? Or is
I
that?
think it's a tenant, and it has something to do with the mechanical equipment on their road.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's not us.
Okay.
Good minutes. Good last meeting.
Do you have any minutes, Jaime?
Yes.
Okay. So, continued indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. Study the relationship of the plaster mold and awning of the Chico's store facade. Study the lower portion of the ANGL storefront to be more in character with the upper portion. Provide a roof plan indicating how far back the plaster parapet will return on the ANGL store angle. Okay.
Okay. For those of you who weren't here, these are shops at the La Cumbre Plaza, and they're in between two corner tenants who were recently completed. The DCBG and also the Louis Vuitton at the other end. What we suggested at the last meeting, nobody objected to that, is that this was becoming somewhat flat in terms of its facade, so we suggested projecting awnings on both these tenants. But this is a really tiny project, and in fact the Chicos were essentially just adding awnings to it to get a little bit of relief and a little shadow play. The angle we're doing a little bit more work on. We've suggested a canopy that looks similar to the canopy at downtown at the Restoration Hardware. And we provided details on that. I've got some photographs of a project that we did that was similar to that as well. This is really didn't get much in the way of comments. We've responded to each of the comments. The comment about raising the molding actually intersected the uppermost awning on Chico's. We've raised that above the awning. And the second comments were regarding the angle. And we had originally come in with what was Angle's preferred storefront, which is mullionless glass, budded, and it was suggested that we come up with something that maybe bridges something more traditional. So what we're suggesting is center glazed mullions, and we've added some visible mullions to that. We also had originally spandrel glass up directly below the canopy and as a backdrop to the signage that sits on top of the display window, and we're changing that to a metal panel instead that's framed with expressed mullions.
That's this?
Yes, rather than just a continuous glass piece.
You have a finish in that at all?
Finish will be similar to this, and we have a color material board here. We've used this before. It's just a textured metal with some glazing set in.
That's this here?
That's this, and it would be in this color here, charcoal color. That's what we're suggesting.
Charcoal or medium bronze?
Charcoal.
This is charcoal.
Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
is medium bronze.
Charcoal here, and it'll be a flat finish rather than shiny finish, which is indicated there, for both the awning and also for the metal below that. So it kind of reads as one piece.
Okay. Provide a roof plan. Do you have a roof plan showing how far back the plaster parapet?
We've actually shown that on the plan itself, and it returns 8 feet.
This one returns all the way,
facade.
and this one goes 8 feet.
This one actually is the adjacent BCBG, which goes much higher than that.
Okay,
So this
great.
butts into it. Really, the only question was how far does this end return.
Yes.
And 8 feet would be more than adequate, with
Okay.
this being in the same plane, we think.
Okay. All right. I'd like to open that up for public comment. Seeing no one, bring it back to the board for questions. Keith.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
John.
I'm not sure. I'm still thinking. Pass me up.
Okay. Paul.
No question.
Gary.
The only question I'm going to ask is the beaded material you said was steel, and it's listed. It says it's FRP panels. Is that what you're proposing?
We've got two options. It could be FRP, same texture, or metal. And we've used both.
It's painted either way.
It's
right?
painted either way.
Okay.
I do have a question now.
Okay.
That I thought of when it was here last. The comment that said study the lower portion to be more in character with the upper portion. What was proposed earlier that you're now proposing in FRP? Just to bring me up to speed.
Yeah, what's typical for the angle is a very contemporary look. They had butt glazed glass, no mullions, and we had spandrel glass up above. So this was a continuous dark black glass piece up above.
But it
was the backdrop to
It
the
was not
side.
opaque. It was transparent or semi-transparent, so that it would provide light into the store. And look.
No. It's transparent below that.
Okay.
This is at about 15 feet, and that comes down about 3 feet. So there was 12 feet of transparent glass below that, but then that comes down somewhat.
Okay.
It aligns with the top of the display box that projects out
And
a
then
couple
the
feet.
other comment, okay, I understand. Thanks. The relationship of the plaster mold and the awning for Chico's. Is this piece, this small piece here, set back so that and this is just a piece of plaster set back so that this molding returns and there's a shadow line there. So
There is a shadow line here, and typically there's a neutral strip that's a metal strip. It could be an inch wide or it can be wider than that. That is going to be a neutral strip, and it's about, in this case, I think we've got it about 8 to 12 inches wide. The wall for the angle has to be self-supporting per the guidelines. So the structure comes to the ground, so it projects out beyond that, but it does return into that neutral strip.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, questions? Gary? Questions? I had some questions. So what is that section look like now across that storefront?
Probably similar to this. It's just aluminum storefront, but it's painted aluminum storefront.
Okay. And so that's the definition line here where there will be, and that will be that panel that you just showed us.
Right. It's essentially in the same plane as the glass below.
So this is clear, but there's a horizontal band right here, right?
There's a horizontal band there, yes, that we've dropped above the door.
And
it continues.
The wide depth that we're seeing here is only some sort of shadow, but it's really a narrow band going across here. It's like that thick?
No, it is actually, we're suggesting a thicker band at the top, almost like a header above the door, or it coincides with the top of the door.
I see, okay. Okay, this was just looking a little lighter than that. It's like two different colors in here. I wasn't sure what that was there.
Yeah. No, that's got some depth to it.
Okay, I have a question. It's like, if this is glass and that's solid, then why wouldn't this heavier band want to be here, and then this is just a lighter division between glass and glass? You see what I'm?
Well, you're wondering about this dividing horizontal here? Is
Yeah.
that you're questioning that?
Yeah. And
Well-
maybe I'm thinking at the same time while I'm talking, I'm not 100% sure that what you have does not work well. I'm just thinking that this will come across as a solid band all the way across here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have a heavy solid band here, and we have glass, and then fine. I'm just trying to picture in my mind the heaviness of this band and really whether that's the best look or not.
Well, this band, for instance, here is thicker than these other bands. So,
Right.
in a sense, you're looking at something like that. We thought, and it's not that important, but we like the idea of having some sort of header expressed above the door.
I see.
And because we were asked to go away from just a mullionless system, we wanted to introduce some relief. So, it's a center glazed glass, so you're going to get some, profile to these metal pieces that are now breaking up the glass, and we thought that it should have a little more meat in that location.
Okay, that's the result of my question. So that's this then. I didn't see this. First time I'm seeing this. So is that our...
That's a rough sketch, and that was just a study sketch.
So
But
this goes in. This
It
moves
does
in.
go in. Yes, it does.
Okay, that's even all right. Now I'm getting it.
And the door sits in here.
All right,
This
but
is the
but it doesn't go in on this side. It just goes in right
Just-
in here.
just here,
In this
yes.
whole bay right there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it shows in the plan here too. You can see it right below.
All right. Okay, I get it. So you won't see these lights. They would be up underneath here.
Right.
And then this would be a solid panel. And then what's this ceiling material here?
It's probably going to be the same material that we're using on the face here. Although it could be plaster. That's something we haven't decided yet.
Okay, so you really wouldn't see those lights. That was just a sketch.
They'd probably drop
A
down. It's just a
sketch
sketch.
thing,
Yeah. And the purpose of the sketch was really to show the projections on the flat wall which was running
Yeah.
through there.
So very useful. Very, very useful, especially when you see the offset triangles here. I think that's important to know. And this is your design here, not that type. This
That's
is-
correct. That's the design. So that's a custom FRP design for this.
Okay. I'm good with the preliminary.
Are we in comments?
Yeah, I thought we
I thought we were in questions. I'm having a hard time keeping up.
Sorry.
Comments?
Comments.
I agree, Mr. Chair. I think it's ready for preliminary.
Okay. Dawn?
Yeah, I have a comment because I wasn't here last time. And I was just questioning the location, and I'd like the rest of the board's opinion on how high the awning is for the Angle store. It's when you said that it was similar to, or going to be similar to the Restoration Hardware downtown, that awning
Is lower.
is very low, so it gives a sense of a human scale. And this awning not only is above the storefront window, it's above the transom, but it's above the next level up, so it's really high off the ground. So, and I'm also questioning and maybe that's okay, I'm thinking that's not very, maybe that's not the intent that you wanted, but it's not very human scale. It's not bringing it down to a comfort of you're going underneath an awning. It's not protecting you from, it's 6 feet out, but it's not protecting you from the elements either, and even though it's solid.
Yeah, we debated that too, and part of the issue is dealing with the tenants, and they have a sense of what their storefront is, and that in part established the height that we put the awning, which is above their typical storefront. And if you go through the mall, that's about the height of the existing canopies that are in place as well. But what we did instead is we projected this element out, which we thought helped justify that being a little bit higher, and then that's the reason for this metal band in here, which we think helps that. It's true. It's going to throw shadow But in terms of being an effective protection from rain, it's not really meant to serve that purpose in this case. But
No,
I
and
think
I was
in
thinking just
combination with these
psychologically.
pieces, I think it works. I mean,
And then along those same lines, it is dissimilar to Restoration Harbor because it's not a lattice on the inside that casts a variegated shadow on the outside of the building.
yeah, it might have been a mistake to bring that up. It's true that there are differences, but there are similarities as well. We're using Santa Barbara finish smooth plaster up above. We've got cornices up above. Then we've got an articulated canopy that sits below that and divides it from the storefront in this case. So there are differences.
I'm just saying, this is my comment, I probably would have tried to lower it, but it's not a deal breaker for me. And the other thing is that I wanted to just bring up the placement of the supports and how they don't necessarily relate to anything, but because they are so high and you're not going to see them, then that's probably kind of a non-issue as well. They don't relate to the breakups of the FRP. They don't relate to the window mullions below that. They're just, they're equally spaced and centered on the building, and you're not going to see them. So that's not such a big issue. I think my biggest issue is just the fact that that awning is so high. But again, not a deal breaker for me.
Thanks, Don. Paul?
I was just going to ask Don, when you said the mullions not lining up, were you talking about the mullions in the FRP panel, which would be like these guys not lining up to the chain? Was that?
Yeah, that and the windows either. They don't really line up with anything.
Well, we've spaced these fairly regularly. Actually, we deliberately grouped these as 2 and 2,
Yeah,
and then
I can
came
tell that.
equal from the side. And we didn't really think it was that important that it necessarily related to what was
Let me-
below. And in
You're
fact, we thought it might be, it's what you see all the time. They're
Let me
always
follow up with
spaced
what
exactly
Don was
the
saying.
same.
This is very minor, but I saw it too, which is why I'm commenting it, because supporting her in the sense the chain doesn't bother me because it's above the marquee, but these broken up in halves. I was thinking about perhaps if you were to take that into thirds, because it just seems this spacing and then this seems a little bit funny or odd. This I understand how it's working because of the way the door happens. It is what it is, but this, if it was maybe broken into thirds and this is thirds and then whatever that pattern is repeated, but it's a minor little, let's see if it makes it look better, and if it doesn't, then go back to what you had, but I sense something funny there.
Just above this horizontal here, or are you suggesting that this be broken into 3 panes?
No, just above. You see how you broke this into 2 panels?
Right.
So just above this horizontal, I'm wondering what if you broke this into thirds instead. So this was 3 and they're more up and down versus kind of a rectangular.
But you wouldn't do that on
Messes
this
it up
side?
over here.
Well, that's if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that.
Yeah, this width is different than that, and it became problematic. It would have been nice if these were equal on both sides, but they weren't. But they came closer with this pattern than
I think so too. It's
Than the
really
other.
tough. I looked at that too.
It's tough, but I sense something in there. As for the height of the marquee or the overhang, I'm not too concerned about that as much, because I just see that as an architectural detail or as an element hanging out, and it's so long. But so I think the project, you responded to what we asked for.
Gary?
Can I ask a question? Not yet, or not at all.
I want to wait till Gary,
Okay.
and then after we'll see what you have to say.
I think that the changes you made are nice. I actually like the panels that you have right below the marquee. But I am struggling with the overhang, the awning overhang. More has to do with how the signage is below it. And even though we do have a sign ordinance that says you're not supposed to have the signs above the overhang and marquee, I just feel that to me it looks odd. It looks odd that we have the overhang projected, and then we've got the sign below it. And historically, with this style or a marquee, you would have something above it. And the height is what's generating that. And so I'm going to agree with Don that I kind of feel like the height of this marquee should drop down.
Well,
So that's just my comment. It's not a deal breaker for me, because as I see it, it's still an acceptable project. So that's just a comment.
Okay. Thanks,
And we
Gary.
see why you did it. We understand why you did it.
well, yeah, because the sign really can't be a rough sign, according to the signage program. The second item is that the tenant,
see it.
you wouldn't see it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the third thing is that
they're on a public street, so that doesn't work. But I mean, you can still have the sign projected at the edge of the marquee or something.
Okay, what was your question? You had a question?
the other question was this is such a, I mean, from my point of view, this is a very small job. I mean, now when you say, can we go to preliminary? Does that mean we have to come back for preliminary with more detail, or does that mean we can do working drawings?
We haven't voted yet, but I think that what you're hearing from most of us is that the opinions about the little comments that we've made are not deal breakers, and you've addressed our concerns.
Okay, so
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I think generally.
But he hasn't made his comment.
I haven't made yet. Yeah, we will try to push you on as fast as we can. I think within the general bounds of your design, you have done what we've asked you to do. I think when we start to zero in on all of the little details now to try and make it better, I do think that Dawn and Gary, they have a point about the marquee height of it. I don't have an issue with the letters down here at all. I think that works. But and you are working with, this is built in the
there's an existing shear wall, a blank wall behind it.
Right.
That is a new piece that goes over that shear wall.
So this location here exists right now from here to there?
Yes.
So that's why this can't
It's a
be,
blank
that
wall.
can't be moved or anything like that?
That's correct.
Right?
And that's what sets this up as a different width than that.
Right.
I mean, it's in
Yeah.
place. There's a 9-foot concrete shear
Yeah.
wall.
But I think that, you see, in this elevation where we're seeing it from far away, we're seeing a little bit of verticality here, which is really important to see these in relation to the whole overhang, just like it is on the on the Restoration Hardware. And the Restoration Hardware, they have some significant items up here that give it that strength when you see these items. What I fear is because this is up so tight, if this is correct here, the angle is so tight here that this becomes so strong and these become so minor that they play very little part in this marquee at all. So that's why I think that actually any height that you could come down is going to help that angle. And I'm not thinking big. I could see how this line adds up here. Is there any ability to drop that down so the top of that lines up with that and comes down a little bit lower? And again, it's not, this isn't, I think it's kind of, if you guys look at it and you're really happy with the way it is and that's the way you want to do it, I'm not going to say no.
Well,
But I'm just trying to nudge it towards what could be a better place. But
let me just say this. I would have preferred to put the canopy lower, but for a number of reasons, it didn't work. For the signage, for the tenant, for their expression of their storefront.
Yeah.
So I had to look for some sort of compromise. And I think by putting this other band across here, putting the signage, contrasted against that, bringing the store or the display box just up to the base of that, it all worked a lot better.
okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm within my comfort zone, so I'm open to a motion that would help the applicant move along.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out that if that's the elevation he's using for signage, that's probably too large of a sign that would be approved
In the lettering.
in the lettering height. So scale-wise,
The
that
sign,
sign's going to get smaller.
But if the sign comes, if the lettering comes smaller, do you then have the ability to drop the?
Maybe, yeah.
Because
I mean, that's an important part of it.
there is a maximum that you can have that height at, and
Yeah. Well, we'll take a look at that. If it's possible to drop it down a little bit more, if the signage comes down, because that really is the governing factor.
That's the governing factor. And, okay, so then maybe our motion can reflect that then, maybe depending on the motion maker. Okay, I'm open for a motion. Anyone who is comfortable to move it forward.
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval. And with the following comments, that the applicant studied the signage lettering height not to exceed 12 inches in height, and the applicant is to study opportunities to lower the marquee if the signage reduces in scale, and the applicant is to return back with window mullion details showing the width of the mullions and the profiles, including the sill piece right here, a little bit of the detail there.
I'll second the motion, but I have some comments about it.
Okay.
If it's okay.
Under discussion.
I think that the motion should not reflect anything about the signage, because that's a separate issue altogether. And the 12-inch lettering is a maximum, and a lot of times the sign committee won't even allow an applicant to go that high. I mean, it's not uncommon for a sign to be approved with less than 12 inches, as you know. We were on the sign committee. So I think it would just be cleaner if we kept the issues about the signage and the letter height out of the motion and keep it a separate issue. And I think that the comments about returning with mullion details is fine, but we actually expect the project, as you know, to come back with all the details. So it kind of makes it sound like all you have to do is come back with those two details. So I would just maybe like it to be more general about returning with details.
Return with construction
looking
details.
Forward to returning with all of the with all of the detailing materiality and colors.
That's fine.
Okay. So does the
If that's okay with you?
and the motion already said that they would review any opportunity to lower the marquee. Okay. So any more under discussion? No. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries. So I just before you go, you understand that we would like you to investigate any opportunity you can have to lower. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, what I
Don't worry, we'll do it.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, what I recommend is the applicant make the sign application as soon as possible. That way you have a better understanding of what signage can be approved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what could possibly happen is that even though you feel you're happy with this, should you get a much smaller sign, then it will make that seem even more like it's too high.
Scale.
See?
That's true.
Should you
But-
not be able to get large letters, it would make that seem even more out of place being so high.
Well, you know, if for instance, we suggested 12-inch letters, I mean, we can scale
But
that.
you may or may not be able to.
Well, I think
get
if they come back and say, well, 10 inches is all you get, I don't think that much difference is going to matter.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. So we're on to item number 4.
You keep all this? Or?
Yeah. And this color set if you can.
You can take this one. You can take that
So-
one. And that one.
29 North Milpas Street.
What's the folded one?
The same thing you guys looked at?
Oh, what's the not folded one?
Item number 4.
Extras.
Yes.
Here, I have some comments on that.
Okay. Hi.
Proposal
Multiple proposals.
Yeah, we have
one has
4 options.
Okay. All right, so we have no minutes on this, right? We do?
I can start on consent.
Oh, okay. So let's see.
Mr. Chair, maybe I'll start off with comments first to give you some
Great.
background.
Thanks.
This applicant is coming before you at the request of the city. The installed lighting was not per approved plans. They did obtain some revisions through building and safety, but they were never approved by the ABR. As you recall, this project was approved on the consent calendar, and ultimately the lighting was installed, and we have an active enforcement case. They began some preliminary discussions on consent, and they were turned down to allow the sign or the lighting proposal to remain. Since that time, the owner has come forward with his desire to keep the lighting as one of the options presented today, and I'll let them walk through the other options that we've asked them to explore.
Okay. If you could state your
Okay,
name for the record.
just want to introduce our team. David Pearson, he's the owner of that particular restaurant. Alec Fard is the architect for Chapman Adams, and I'm Mel Thurston with Dallas, USA. We come here before, first is to kind of reconsider your decision about the enforcement case, leaving the wall lights the way they are right now, as you can see on the first option. We tag.
Photographs? I think Jaime has photographs.
We decided to submit at least 4 options for you guys to reconsider, with the original wall lights being our number 1 option for number 1 is security reason, and David can talk about.
This is the number 1 option?
Yeah.
That's existing now?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. He got support from the police department about having those lights up. I'm not, David, if you could add some more on that.
I've had numerous, actually, numerous letters from the police, notes from the police department thanking us for the lights. We've had a murder on Milpas in the last month. We have a homeless issue that is out of control at this restaurant. This morning I was in there was 18 homeless people in our restaurant at 5:30 in the morning. We had a rape in there last week. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. I fear for the safety and security of my people that work there. The lights, I don't know where the miss was on getting them through planning, but they're absolutely fantastic. They light up this whole area very well, and we'd love to keep them, and I know the police department would love to keep them, and so.
Okay.
I don't know more to say, but yeah.
Just to move things along here.
Yeah.
Option 1 is a no-go.
Okay.
Okay. We can try to find a solution here that would really give you the level of lighting that you want without having these type of lights on top of that fixture. As much as we'd love you to keep them, the precedent here is just too strong. Okay. It's too difficult for us to make that leap. And the item here is not that you don't have light, but we provide light in a different design.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for. So let's look at the other options.
It doesn't matter that I can show you lights up and down Milpas of this nature.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they may have others who have what you're proposing, or even worse.
Yeah.
But there's probably nothing that this board can do about them at this time unless it becomes an enforcement case on their property.
Okay.
So it's not like I can go along and just say it's just not.
Can I?
So let's look at the other options.
Can I add something on option 1 real quick?
Yep.
I know the issue is about the glare on those lights, especially from traffic coming from the street.
Yeah, it's the glare and the option of the bulb sticking up above the parapet. It's a number of things.
That's mainly just sticking out above the parapet.
Yeah, it's more of an eyesore, in more than one way.
So is
the
it
visual appeal of it, the aesthetics.
Is it the fixture, or is it the fact that they're above, or is it the?
It's the fixture, the fact that it sticks up, the glare.
More of this there.
The aesthetic look, what it does to the architecture.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can we just
let's
get
look at the
whole
option.
presentation before
Yeah.
we get into what
Yeah.
the board.
Okay.
because
So number one
I
is
wasn't
out. Let's
involved
look
in
at the other options.
the consent
Yeah.
review.
The next option is, we call it option 4, is actually proposing lot lights. They're about 18 to 20 feet high on a 2-foot base. And we have 4 locations, the entire light. He currently have the power company provide lights along this area right here. It's not ours, it's the power company. But we're proposing 4 different locations that lights up the area. So this is
Like
the
this type?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Cut-off lighting, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Dark sky.
So
Okay.
this one actually shine really directly to the ground.
And you have a height on these poles?
It's 18 feet high.
Okay.
How tall is the building?
Oh,
it's tall.
where's the building?
It's 17 feet.
17 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see your next option.
Okay.
That's option 4.
Is there an option 2 and 3?
I'm hoping we
I think we're working
fill
backwards.
those gaps.
Next option is option 3B.
3D. Okay.
This is one's double lights actually shining, just in the center of the lot.
Yes.
Next to the existing flagpole. It's also the
Same set lights.
the
here?
light pole. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And what's the height of that pole?
It's the same, 18 feet.
18 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see your next option.
And that doesn't like this at all, Mel, right?
No. Just like this.
That's a big problem for me.
So are you presenting them in orders of preference?
No,
I mean,
I-
what is?
No, actually, they're not in
Are you just
order.
throwing them all out
I'm
to
just
see?
kind of trying to get the plans the way they are giving it to me. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right.
This is option 2. And option 2 is the wall lights. But they're not located above the parapet, but they're located on the wall, like this. And this is the specs that we have.
Okay. Okay. This one provides a lot of glare.
Not sure on the illumination, but we do have a photometric study that we did. It's at 18, 16 along this area. Does not really illuminate a lot of this portion right here.
Yeah. I'm talking about glare from far away, looking at the lens,
Yeah.
seeing the lens. So when you look towards the building, you'll see this glowing hot spot. Okay, a lot of the lighting that we try to encourage around town is a non-glare type. So you actually have to
Okay.
be under it or within where you want to light the ground.
Yeah.
That's the part. Like it shouldn't affect somebody who's like across the street looking at McDonald's there
Yeah,
and see these big bright dots on the wall.
Yeah.
It's okay to see the dark screen of it and the light coming out, but you don't necessarily want to see the bright light shining towards you.
Actually, on this particular lights and also on the lights that we're proposing, and on the original, on the option 1 that we want to do is we can provide glare shield on each unit. So the direct illumination does not really protrude right directly, but instead there's going to be a glare, and then it just drop down below. It's not really opening it wide light.
Okay, so this is proposal number 2, is that right?
Yes.
2, and it goes with this? This is part of the
that's
proposal.
a gooseneck, yes, to light the sign.
To light
and
the
also
sign.
the building.
And this is the back of it.
Exactly.
Okay, and these are on the wall?
Those are all existing lights
are all
that
existing
that
now.
were approved on one of our ARB.
Okay. All right, so do we have any others, or is that it?
That's about it.
Okay, so we
got
have
a
3.
four
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Just 2 items. One, there are 3 elements that are before you for a decision. The first has to do with the security lighting that was placed on the building that you're looking at various alternatives to address. The second has to do with the spot lighting at the front of the street along the front facade. You have two roof-mounted those lights, so you could address those as to whether or not they should be altered, because they were also placed without approval.
Right.
And then the third is a landscape element, that is some turf that was actually found acceptable on consent, but our city water resources folks will not permit an allowance for turf in a commercial application. So the applicant is also interested in pursuing a possible change to that city policy or a possible appeal, because he feels that the turf could remain. But at one point, you had an alternative landscape plan. That could be-
I've got some alternative ideas
Okay.
that I sent to you. I mean, that I
Okay,
didn't
so
know how to
that's
present.
just, there's 3 areas there.
Do we have a photograph of that
Yeah,
situation?
I will give you that.
Light?
And then the last thing I wanted to point out is we did check our outdoor lighting design guidelines, and metal halide is not considered something preferable on the building.
Right.
It's okay for the the parking lot lights, but not on the building itself. I just wanted to point that, and I think that's what they're speccing out as far as fixtures.
Right. Okay.
On the landscape, we do have an approved landscape plans, the revised one for the drought tolerant landscape. But David wants to maintain, if possible, the way he got it right now.
Well, this little 8 foot of land has been there, literally this grass has been there for 30 years, and we have a tribute to my dad right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And we use gray water to water it. I mean, we bring water up from our drink system, so there's no water being used. So we're
Right.
getting rid of good sod
Yeah.
being watered with gray water. And I've got a couple alternatives, which Katie Rogers wrote up so that I can throw it out. But I'd like to keep the lawn. I mean, it's been there for literally 30 years.
The reason why this landscape was brought up was during construction, the turf was heavily damaged, and the owner actually just put it back when we're ready to open the project or the restaurant. So we can prove to you on all some of our old pictures that landscape actually exists. Probably for
I got a
years.
picture of me when I'm 20 years old.
And being
again.
maintained,
So,
Okay,
regularly.
So before we go ahead with this particular item, I just isolate this item by itself here. Is you would prefer to keep the lawn and not replace it with any other design? That's your preference, right?
It's beautiful. We have a major homeless issue. They just trample that area. Grass has been proven to be the right product there. People open up
Over
their car
time.
and walk out.
Okay, all right.
We had a person defecating in our yard just in the back here. So it just.
So Jaime, the rules are that no lawn, but are there exception cases that one could make for certain?
Not currently in our ordinance. And what the suggestion was that the use of gray water could also be used as a grounds for exception, and the idea of it being a memorial tribute area of a small nature.
And we could restrict it to this size, the maximum size being that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you could again ask the city water resources folks to make an exception at your request.
Okay. All right. So that's one thing. Before I'm going to bring the board will ask questions and then we'll give comments. Of these 3 cases, lighting features, what is your preferred as the owner?
Well, obviously.
4 or 3?
One is out.
One is out. Okay, so we got.
The metal halides on the side of the building.
Safety.
The metal
safety
halides on the side of
is
the
the
building
key
are
thing.
not approvable either.
Yeah.
So what is your preferred in that route?
I guess I got to ask which is the safest, which illuminates the best. 'cause
Can
I'm not a
we
lighting expert.
replace the metal halide lamps with something else that's approved by the city, but still on the building?
Right.
Mr.
Like-
Chair, we're getting into comments
Okay.
actually that I think I
All
would
right.
prefer to
Okay.
public comment
Okay.
and questions.
All right, we'll see what happens when we go through then. Okay, open it up for public comment. Seeing no one, I'll close that and bring it back to the board for questions. Keith?
No questions.
Dawn?
No questions.
Paul?
In the photographs, there was some pictures there's a picture of the light that's on the red tile roof.
Yes.
Are those proposed to be removed, or are those proposed to, as part of this application?
We're being asked to remove it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I saw there was the gooseneck lamps that were like on each side of the sign.
Yes.
That's new, and those haven't been installed.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Those
one
would,
of the
that would
proposals.
that would fix this.
Yeah. The two goose lamps would replace this
Right.
one.
Right.
Is this currently an illuminated sign? A backlit letter,
Yes.
Okay. So why do you need the gooseneck lamps and a lit sign?
Because the building is so massive.
It's dark.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because we're going to lose this. And we
Yeah,
have
trees.
a wall light, gooseneck light that acceptable,
Yeah.
And those are all my questions. Thank
Trying to
you.
make sure that is illuminated, right?
I didn't think it was illuminated.
I kind of feel like
I think that's the reason
I'm
they.
trying to remember
I'm
because
try-
it's
I
going to
can't
make
remember.
a big difference for me because I'm
No.
on the sign committee and I reviewed that
I can
sign,
find
so
out.
If you don't mind,
Do you mind if I text and ask?
a discussion would be at the Habit Hamburger place. They had backlit metal halide letters and they had goosenecks both, and they ended up having to just go with one or the other because it was a redundant lighting.
Okay.
That looked more plausible.
Gary?
No questions. I have.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'll bring it back to Keith for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to go down Clemmy's list here, I think on the little turf landscapes, since it's being watered with gray water, I think we ought to make the exception. I think all the wall and building lighting that was done without approval should be removed. I would go with option 4 with the multiple pole-mounted lights that are fully shielded, dark skies. And by having the multiple ones, you can put them wherever you need to for security reasons. I would advocate that we come back with a photometrics of a proposed layout for those, just so we can kind of vet that. And if the sign is building signage is not illuminated, then I think the gooseneck solution is acceptable for that.
Thanks, Keith. Dawn?
I agree with the turf. I think it should be allowed to stay since it's been there for so long and it's being watered by gray water. For all the reasons, I think it should stay. And I agree with Keith on option 4 with the post lights, although I don't think that's going to give the applicant enough security at the face of the building. And nobody's brought up an option of adding more of the sconces that were previously approved to the building to augment the lighting at the face of the building. And I think that if you look at the elevation, there's an opportunity. The elevation that shows these, there's an opportunity to, I mean, these look a little odd just in the middle of this huge expanse of plaster anyway. I mean, if there's an opportunity to put additional lighting in these areas or move this over and put another one here and another there and another there and get more lighting at the face of the building. If you're going for security, the 4 lights in the parking lot, in addition to that as lighting, would be great. I wish I could say it was okay to leave the existing lights because I think the existing lights do give you a huge amount of security, but we can't set a precedence because then all the other ones that you're seeing on Milpas are not approved necessarily by the board. They're just put up, and unfortunately, yours got noticed, and other ones didn't. So now we have to deal with it, and we
And
can't
again, I'm
set.
just worried about a murder and
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's just
So
a huge. I don't sleep at night thinking about it.
I know, I wouldn't either. But the parking lot lights, in addition to more exterior wall lights at the face of the building, and then my opinion on the signage lighting is interesting. I'm on the sign committee, and we reviewed this project, and I remember it was controversial even for us to allow the the sign to be above this roof element, and the only reason that we were able to make the finding that it was okay was because I was seeing this as the roof, because this carried down to the ground. If this lower roof continued around, then we wouldn't even have allowed that sign there, even though it's a perfect place for a sign. I know that there's other members on the sign committee that are adamantly against gooseneck lighting, but this is not an HLC where they're actually changing the ordinance to not allow gooseneck lighting at all. So, but in this case, if the sign is not illuminated, I would be okay with it, just because I think the sign needs illumination.
It's not illuminated.
Okay,
It's got a text back.
You
Okay.
did.
Okay,
So,
Paul?
that's my opinion.
Thanks, Don.
I'll concur with the comments that Keith made. Somehow, if we wanted to put lights, I keep on thinking that just a different person, if there was a way you could put a light fixture above here that looked like it was appropriate with this sharp cutoff, a shield and then a case around it so it looked pretty instead of seeing just the glass.
Just the lights,
That would be an opportunity, but it would have to be, an example of this is what you can do around town, and we point to your building versus this is what you shouldn't be doing, and we point to other buildings. So there's not a way that I think you can incorporate some wall-mounted lights for additional lights, but the pole-mounting lights really get it into the body of your parking lot, and that should be your substantial lighting.
Okay.
Gary?
Well, I'm opposed to the roof lighting altogether. Any roof-mounted lighting. I'm also opposed to any lighting that is not used for safety. For instance, your roof lighting that are pointed towards the building are purely to accentuate the outside of the building. We have an ordinance that says that we don't light architectural structures. So a lot of this lighting that you have here at this McDonald's was purely to light the building up. And I even see the gooseneck lighting that you proposed is the lighting comes almost below the sign on it. And I don't see that as being something that's lighting the sign, but rather than it's lighting the building again, lighting the roof. So I'm not really in favor of how the proposal was for the lighting on the gooseneck, and I'm not in favor of the building itself lighting the parking lot. However, pole-mounted lighting I think can be acceptable, provided there's proper shielding and the photometrics work out. I'd like to see that when you do the photometric study, that you add the lighting on the exterior of the building, the outside of the building. It didn't include that in the photometrics, and I think that if that was included, it would paint a little different picture as well. That would be my comments.
Thanks, Gary. So I'll just take it from the top. I agree with the landscape approach, that we try and ask for an exception, but that it be crafted in such a way that it applies only to that particular area, and should the memorial be moved or something like that, your exception would, we wouldn't deem that the exception is needed anymore. But because you're using gray water, etc., I think it would be good for us to ask for that. As far as the building lighting is concerned, the approach that I would like to take is that I would prefer not to see these wall-mounted light fixtures like Gary that light the parking lot from the building. But I do think that Dawn's suggestion has merit. Like if you replace this with one here, one there, or something like that, that gave you a little bit more, and that these lights are in character with the design of the building, then I could see that you'll be getting a lot more lighting around the building. I'm okay with the gooseneck in this particular situation, to replace these lights that are out here now, in as much as that sign is non-lit. and I would go for option 4 for the pole-mounted parking lights. However, I would like to see that those lighting fixtures be maximized out to a height of about the same height as this here, 16 feet 6 inches max to the height, instead of being as tall as the building. So that's where I am. Have I missed anything, Paul? Okay, so hope maybe we could get a kind of a compromise.
Mr. Chair, I'll
Yeah.
take a stab at a motion.
Yep.
For
start with landscape.
Indefinite continuance
Mhm.
back to the full board with the comment that the board would entertain, or the board is in favor of an exception to the requirement to not allow the turf, in favor of an exception to that rule. I don't know what else I need to say, Jaime, about that. It's a recommendation, right?
I think the way we'll characterize it is this board is recommending it be granted an exception, but ultimately it's the water services folks that they have to grant it.
Okay, so that's item number 1, Gloria. And then the second one would be that the board is in favor of the option to provide pole-mounted parking lot.
Security lighting.
Say that again?
Security lighting.
Security lighting. And I actually don't think they need to be 16 feet tall. I think that and to minimize the height to the fullest extent possible. The board prefers additional sconces and possible relocation of existing wall-mounted sconces at the face of the existing building. And the two proposed gooseneck lights would be acceptable as a means of illuminating the existing signage, assuming there is no existing internally illuminated signage. And I think I covered everything. That's my
So we have a first and a second.
Well, second.
By Keith, under discussion.
Under discussion, we asked for the applicant to return with photometrics of the proposed lighting design.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I want a question. I
Yes.
have one comment first.
Just a minute.
Under discussion.
Under discussion.
On item 2, I think it was for Don, about when they talked about the additional wall sconces, can we make it more like the applicant can study instead of the board encourages?
Yeah, the applicant is encouraged to study relocation or additional wall sconces
Correct.
on the exterior
To match existing.
to match existing on the exterior of the building.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. And then, do you want to let the applicant ask his question before we make our final vote?
You can ask your question. We'll see if we'll answer it before we make the motion. But you can ask it. Go ahead.
I have a question too.
No, I just want to know from the board what's your recommended height on the lot light, so we don't have to stub what we want. Give us a height that's acceptable.
Well, I mean, I'm personally thinking that the height of this room would be high enough.
I think 12 feet is what we've recommended on a lot of other parking lots in this.
I also can check that law which we just approved. It came out quite nice. I think it's lower than this proposal. I can give you that information also.
Okay. Sounds good.
That's actually a great place to look.
Where?
No, Jaime will give you some things from a previous approved project.
Oh, all right, okay. Yeah, thank you.
If you have to add more lights and have them lower, I think it's better.
Preferable.
It'd be better than having fewer and higher
And
lights.
higher.
So just to give you direction.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, you had another question?
Couple.
Just one. Quickly.
Okay.
We want to make our motion.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that we're looking for options. We want to do this right, and I want to make it safe. And I, frankly, when I first came in and we met with the first guy, the first thing he said out of his mouth was, "I hate McDonald's." So we had a bad start.
Yeah,
That was
I
the
buy
comment out of his
McDonald's.
and so, and we're looking for options, and I just want to make it safe for our people. So, if you have an option 5, 6, 7, 8, we're looking for them. These lights just spray down. They don't project out. They illuminate the building. It's not like they're giving love to the building. They're not giving love to the safety of the,
But you may want to look at a different fixture.
Fixture, you may need to,
Style.
different fixtures on the parking lot. You may need to,
Right.
you may need more.
Right. And are these pole lights? You guys are all architects. I mean, is this going to work? Is this going to be secure? Is this going to be as good as what we have?
Well, look at the BevMo. Look at BevMo.
Should be.
It should be as
Okay.
good as
Yeah.
what you have. Yeah.
That's again, that's my concern.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. Thanks very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So we come back now with that.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
go ahead and do it. And,
Okay.
Great.
that's yours, right?
Yeah, we'll keep option. We keep the options, right, Jaime? We
I
keep
can
all
mow my
options,
lawn,
and
I hear.
option 4 is the one we should go in the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, they have some wall panels
Thanks a lot.
and cute little metal surround
That goes down there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the last item of the evening, we will take 136 South Hope Avenue. Yeah, it is where Verizon. All right. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
Yeah, that was the first thing. I don't know. That was the previous applicant. I think they're out of maybe Ventura or down south.
They're obviously not from here. There's no such thing as permits for gay.
Okay. This is a new one or continued?
Yeah, the agenda isn't quite updated. I'll start by saying my name's Ryan Mills with DMA. Yeah, this was previously submitted under a different agent and architect, and then we were just recently hired by GNC and submitted. So we did review the previous comments, and but basically started over completely.
It's a new sketch.
It's a
So.
new, yeah.
Okay, I'll just read it just to see what the, even though it was a previous design, that I just see what some concerns we had generally. Return with accurate plans representing the work. Provide the existing canopy or eave in section as demolished to show the vertical relationship to what is proposed. Provide detailed information on the plans on how the parapet top will return. Provide elevation details on how the parapet will be remodeled. Provide elevation of the adjacent storefronts to show the context of the proposals. Provide a cut sheet for the mechanical unit. Provide a longitudinal section through the building to show the parapet height and the mechanical unit. Provide a rear elevation and necessary details to show the scope of work presented. Okay, we understand this is a new concept, so we'll review it in that light.
Okay. Well, just briefly giving us context where we are. We're at the back of La Cumbre Plaza near the food court, and this project consists of 3 parts. There's a entry facade renovation. We're actually tasked to retain the storefront glazing and the base and certain elements. There's a back facade component, which is a little unique in that the store doesn't go through, but that was part of the project with the owners, as well as an interior remodel. So you can see it's a very narrow storefront, about 15.5 feet. Towards the back is a service room and then an exit corridor that is used by both GNC and Live Culture, or Love Culture. I do that all the time. Here's the photographs. Number 2 is our existing store, and you can see the Love Culture that just came through is adjacent to the left, and we still have that canopy, so part of the project is removing that canopy. And then this just shows little context left and right. Our backs are right up against the corner of Sears. You can see we're under the canopy here. And then, so that's the interior part. The exterior, so in the back, again, you see Love Culture's renovation. We're essentially from, there's a better graphic. This is showing this more context, but our project really is here. This is sort of the area that's represented. That service door and little canopy structures not apart, so it's the small sliver. And let's see, okay, that's good with the photos. So the front, let's start at the interior. So like I said, we're retaining the existing storefront system, aluminum and glazing. The stone tile base is existing to remain. What we're proposing is kind of removing that existing sign marker and then adding a metal canopy structure similar to Solstice out there has one. And then above, increasing the parapet height, adding a fiber cement panel, and then proposing a shed roof to kind of provide some variation. Not too many shed roofs have been installed as part of the guidelines, so we thought it might work well. So here in section, you can see the canopy, you can see the area of existing canopy to be removed, and then this is our new pitched roof. I'm sorry, shed roof. What you don't have in your plans, I created a new graphic just to show a little better context in perspective to understand, because on both sides is sort of a funky condition. So this helps a little bit. You can see where we cut back that existing canopy and where our proposed roof interacts with it. That little dashed line would be where we cut off, finish, and then return back. And this is sort of the best view I could find where you actually see the most reveal on that side. And then on this side, on the Love Culture side, there's that existing, it returns this little bit of wall we propose at that edge would return back as well a few feet to capture our shed roof.
Okay.
So color materials is part of their
Sorry. I apologize.
So the color material is sort of part of their brand. It's usually grays metals or glass, and then a punch of red. So I didn't mention before, we'll replace the doors with red clad metal doors. And then I'm showing signage. Obviously, this is not a part of this project, but it's fairly integral to what's happening here. It's a little translucent transom piece out flush with the glazing. And then the second part of this project is the parking lot side. It's obviously a completely different project, different facade, and we chose to go this way, talk to the ownership, and this seemed like to be most favorable for everyone. Obviously, this vernacular is part of the tenant design criteria. But we didn't want to do that inside where it's not, and we didn't think there was, since it doesn't go through, it's not a true storefront, we felt like we could separate the two and let them act as two separate buildings. So here we just sort of pop up, we're furring out this wall about 7 inches, 8 inches, enough to build in a little faux window, and build out a surround as well. There's a couple existing light fixture, existing door, and what's this thing called? Standpipe. So all that's just going to be extended out and replaced. We'll replace the door with a painted green wood door. But otherwise, if it was an opportunity to really break this, the difference between what happened here before was it just came forward, and to us it still looked like it was one large building. So we were trying to break that I want to say cityscape, but it's not true cityscape, but break that skyline a little bit. Okay, here it is in plan. You can see we're just furring out a little bit as needed. There is about 10 feet of sidewalk in front of that. There's a tree well about 5 feet out, or 5'8" out, so we'll be reducing that with the furring out to about 5 feet. Here's a proposed floor plan and then a section graphic kind of showing you we're not there yet for this submittal, but they will be replacing the rooftop equipment. This is the location, almost dead center. So we did this little graphic just showing view lines and where we won't see that. It's pretty good, pretty well disguised.
It's a good thing you did that graphic, because otherwise I'm just kidding.
But we did catch that was the request. So.
Okay.
So that's about it.
Great. I'd open it up to public comments. Seeing no one, I'd close that portion, bring it back to the board for questions. Keith.
No questions, Mr. Chair. I think it's ready for polling.
Great. Dawn?
No questions.
Paul?
Really minor on the back elevation where you're pushing the thing out 7 inches and being taller than the existing parapet. The little wings, how long? Well, we'll
we
talk
don't
about
have
it.
that yet.
Okay.
That
was
say
one.
long enough to make
That's
it look
fine.
like it's...
I'm trying to think. In some stores past, we ended up about 5-6 feet.
Yeah.
Something like
How
that. I
length
think
needs
we're
to be
only about
determined.
18 inches taller, so I think returning that a few feet should be sufficient.
Okay. Gary?
I don't have any. I do have questions. Where the canopy comes over on the existing area here, when you demo this out and put in the shed roof, are you going to return? You said you were going to return that back to the wall. Is that correct?
Let me talk about it here in front of the cameras, so that, just so the public could see where you're talking.
So you're talking about this right here, right? Is this is what you're going to return back?
Actually, both will be. Just as they do here on all the remodels, they cut it, and this is sort of the result of last time. We'll do the same, except we don't have that additional parapet. What we would do is actually extend that back, so in this perspective, you'll see it disappear behind the shed. And then on this side, the same thing. This existing wall from that corner will return back as well.
Okay.
So next time we'll specify all those lengths.
All right. That was a question. I do have a comment on that.
Yeah. We won't have that additional parapet bars that really will...
Well, I might as well comment on at the end of the questions. The only thing is I found that this was very unsuccessful and really looked cheap and poor. And I felt like we should have brought this Cornish around the corner. And so it continued. So it looked complete. Everything looks...
temporary.
It looks so temporary. So I kind of felt like we dropped the ball on that last time, and we have an opportunity to fix that this time.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Gary? Yeah, I think that this is a good point of Gary's. What you may want to do is just experiment with maybe how that corner could be made a little bit more successful. I do realize the design that you have is really, the success of that is really dependent on the relationship between here and there. Exactly what height you start this plate at and how you lift it. If you come too much lower, it looks weird. If you go too much higher, it looks a little weird. It's almost like very tricky. So it's obvious that you've actually studied it already. But if you could just look at it in that context, trying to make this corner look as best as you can, and the other side, of course, then I think that's really the only thing. Otherwise, I think that the design is really, it's very sensitive.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I had one comment, because I don't think Keith has any.
Yeah.
And it was on the back side, a minor comment at this point, but it looked like these were kind of sideways tiles running across, and then there's a crown molding. I would do if you're going to do the cap with the tiles on the side, I would keep this detail really minimal, or eliminate the cap altogether and do the more detailed crown molding. One or the other. To me, it looks a little odd to have both the tile on edge cap in addition to a more elaborate crown molding. But that's a minor issue.
I mean, you could use the tile in a different way too if you wanted to come out. But I think it's a good point. Just looking at what is traditional, what you would normally see in a traditional,
In your traditional shopping mall.
Okay. All right, I think we're good. I think let's give him some positive comments here.
So what are we? Where are we? Where are we with this?
We were asking for preliminary.
We are, and it's okay. Does it say it's okay to give preliminary?
Do we have any kind of...
Well, none of our info, we
project
submitted all the new application, and for some reason it didn't get onto the agenda.
Action may be taken. That's what I was looking for. Is that us?
That's number 3, no. You got to know number 6.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for preliminary approval with the following comments. Study the return of the adjacent parapet at the mall side of the project, and study the parapet cornice detail on the parking lot side.
Second.
Okay, under discussion. Any additional? Yeah. I'm all right. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. This is preliminary. Say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. Thanks very much. Okay.
Do you want me to leave? These were new graphics.
Yeah, they are actually really helpful. I found them very helpful. These are 3D things that you did.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you come back for final, look at this first, and if you think that you wanted to just come in to preview something with us, you can do that also. But
how would I do that?
You need to close the meeting.
Sorry. So with that, I'd like to close the ABR for today, November 29th.